Good morning and welcome to the Old Lady Podcast. On this podcast, people call it cozy, which means there's low stakes here. In fact, probably a whole lot of boredom and ennui. So thanks for listening. So it's New York week, ha ha ha, and the travel crazies haven't started yet, but they will probably arrive on Wednesday morning about 5 a.m. Just saying. We leave Thursday morning and we're flying out of LAX, which means we need to leave here at 5 o'clock in the morning, which means I need to get up at 4:30 in the morning, which means I'm going to be sleeping on the plane. We land in New York on Thursday about 4:30 in the afternoon. We're figuring it's going to take us a couple hours to get to our hotel. We're just going to go have dinner, go to the bar next door, which is where we're having our event, and we're going to check that out, and then rest, and then do whatever we do for the rest of the weekend. We only have we're going to see a show Friday night and Saturday night, fingers crossed. On Friday during the day, we're taking a boat tour around Manhattan in an air-conditioned boat because it's going to be hot. Although the weather gods are being very kind and it's not going to be that hot while we're there. It's going to be hot, but it's going to be that hot. In fact, we might even get some rain, which will definitely cool things off. So that's good. And then Sunday's the event, and we come home on Monday. David and I will be filming Monday morning in New York. There probably won't be an Old Lady Podcast next week. I'm just saying that because we're traveling all day Monday, and then maybe I can film something on Tuesday if I'm in my body. And what are the chances of that? Very slim. So, I'm making lists. Lists are what, as Sheldon Cooper said, if there was a list of things that made me more comfortable, a list would be at the top of that list. So I've got lots of lists so I don't forget anything, because I have to remember to bring things not just for traveling, but also for the work I'm going to be doing. We're going to be recording on Monday, and Julia bought a gimbal. Okay. What's a gimbal, you say? It's a device, and they're so cool now because they're all, synced with your phones and have all this AI and stuff. And you hold it, it's like a selfie stick kind of thing, only it doesn't really go far away, or you can set it down and it follows you. It's smart like that. So Julia got one of those because she wants to do gardening videos, which is awesome. And we're going to take it to the event on Sunday and try to get a really good video capture of everything that goes on at the event for people. So there's that. And if you're not a General Hospital person, I apologize for chuntering on about that, but oh well, that's kind of what's happening in my life. So Wicked Stepmother, my stepmother, as you know, she was not feeling well, and she came here and we had the reunion, and then she went up and spent some time with her brother and sister in Palos Verdes and did some, anyway, bottom line, she's in the hospital with pneumonia. It's getting better. She's actually in a rehab right now. And they're getting her all checked out. She lived on the Big Island of Hawaii for 40 years. I'm not saying that the medical expertise is less there, but let's just say that since she's been here in Los Angeles seeing various doctors, they found other things that need attention. They're not life-threatening necessarily. They're things that can be controlled with medication, but they were never caught before. So this is a blessing anyway. And the doctor is very convinced that, in a few weeks, she's going to be strong enough to fly to Colorado and start her new life there. So that's good news. So Saturday, Julia and I planned to go visit her. And so we left the house. She needed to get out and move around. And we get in the car and we're pulling down the street. She goes, "So Mom, now that we're going to New York next week, what do you think about us getting new phones?" And I was like, okay, I actually thought about that last week. Now, did I need a new phone? No. My iPhone 12 was just fine. Thank you very much. But we went and got new phones. So we went to the AT&T store and did all that. And I know why now I only get a new phone every 8 years. It's because it's a pain. I mean, it's less of a pain than it was 8 years ago when I got a phone, but it takes a long time. And we're sitting there. And of course, he just, and he disattached my phone or whatever. So I didn't even have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. I couldn't get anywhere. So I just kind of sat in the store and I didn't bring my knitting with me. And I was just like, okay, well, Julia, we're going to talk about other things right now. So we did that. And then we drove, she was in a hospital up in Torrance. So we drove up there. We had a very cute little lunch at this San Pedro cafe, which was very cool. And then we saw Nina, and it was a lovely day. And, she's going to be fine. She is just as sassy. She's just as sassy as she's always been. She's frail, but she's sassy. Oh, what a great combination, right? So what did we do this week? So it was an interesting week. I watched more television than I usually do, which happens in the summer. Remember I told you July and August are just weird times for me in terms of reading and doing other things because I tend to get distracted. So I discovered on Prime Young Sherlock. I've only watched 2 episodes, but I love it. And the gentleman who plays young Moriarty is the same actor who played the love interest in the Other Bennett sister. So if you haven't watched the Other Bennett sister on BritBox, that's a must. And then young Sherlock, very clever. Also, old cute Colin Firth is in it. And I'm sorry, you put old cute any Colin Firth, young, old, medium, I don't care. I'm good with it because, we've been through this. I'm a bit of an Anglophile, and Colin Firth is way up there. So I was watching that. What else did I watch this week? Oh, Stuart Fails to Save the Universe. Remember I told you a couple of weeks ago it was going to premiere. And this is the latest spinoff of The Big Bang Theory. And oh my gosh, it's fabulous. It is not The Big Bang Theory. This is not, it's not a sitcom. It is a science fiction action comedy. And it literally is all those things. So the premise of this show is that Leonard and Sheldon, the original OG guys from The Big Bang Theory, theoretically created a device, a quantum interference device, like I even know what that means, or if it means anything. And somehow it turned on and it ruined the universe we live in here. It became apocalyptic. And so that's where it starts. It starts with Stuart in his comic book store in this apocalyptic universe. And it just gets wilder from there. It's fabulous. And what is really fabulous for me, because I'm such a Big Bang aficionado, is that each week so far, we've had at least one original character from the series show up in some various alternative universe. It's great. Thursday nights have taken on new meaning for me. Do you remember back in the day, what was it? Must watch TV, was that Thursday nights thing, whatever their thing was, and everybody, all the best shows were on Thursday night. Grey's Anatomy came out on Thursday night. It's so funny we don't really do that. And most streaming shows, they just drop the whole thing at once. But because this is supposed to be like a television show, I guess they're releasing it one a week. I hope it gets picked up for a second season, because it is just clever, brilliant, so many Easter eggs. And they have a podcast that goes with it, which is so smart these days to do that. Will Wheaton and Felicia Day host the podcast, and they are so fun to listen to and such kind and funny people. So there's my plug for Stuart Fails to Save the Universe. But I did do some reading this week. So let's talk about that. I should probably look at my notes from last week to see, but I finished Cleopatra. Okay. That is about that review that you just saw, that nonverbal review, is really because I finally realized I just didn't like her. She was a bitch and conniving and manipulative and murderier. And it was just, yeah. Linda and I talked about it last week, and she was like, I don't think I'm going to finish it. And I said, well, I've only got a couple of hours left. I'll finish it, but I'll take I was the tribute. I volunteered myself to finish it. Yeah, and and this is me. This is why when we talk about books, it's so delightfully subjective, because if you go on Goodreads or Amazon, this book has got over 4 stars as an average review. So most people gave it a 5, right? And I'm going to give it a 3. Was it because of the way the book was written? Was it because of the way the audiobook was read? Or am I just reacting to the fact I don't like this woman? I don't know. But I was disappointed, and I'm very, very sad about that. But, ladies and gentlemen of the old people, we have good news, because we found another cozy mystery series with 15 books, and I just finished the first one, and it's a win. So, we're in Tuscany. Let me tell you the premise. So, the first book is called Murder in Tuscany. It starts off, we meet retired Detective Inspector Dan Armstrong, lovely gentleman from England who is just retired. And as a retirement gift, the police force purchased for him a spot at this writer's retreat in Tuscany because he has expressed interest in writing a historical fiction book. He's in the middle of writing something about the de' Medici family. Great. Well, he gets there and he realizes it's an erotica writing workshop. Cute premise, great lead character. Dan is fabulous. He hooks up. There's a murder, of course, and it's obviously someone in the villa who's there for the writing retreat, and we go through the process of discovering this. Well, the other character in the book that will be continuing on is the black lab, Oscar, and Oscar helps him solve the crime, but not in a cutesy anthropomorphic kind of way. It was very naturally done. Anyway, I am thrilled that I found this series. I am thrilled that I have 14 more books to look forward to. These are the perfect books for me to read while I'm traveling. This next book, I think, is only 7 hours long with the audiobook, which means it was probably barely over 200 pages. I don't care. They're fun to listen to. So there's that. I started 2 books and decided I didn't want to continue. So the first book, A Year at the French Farmhouse. And this, I happened upon this because I'd finished Cleopatra. That was it. I'd finished Cleopatra and it was still early in the evening and I didn't want to turn on something to watch. I wanted to listen to something. So I went on Spotify, because if you have a paying subscription, you get 15 hours of audiobooks a month. So I thought, I'll go listen to this and see if I like it. If I like it, then I'll go get it. I listened for almost 2 hours. One of the things she does in those first 2 hours of the book is she gets drunk, fights with her husband, and buys a house on eBay in France. And then she's trying to figure out how she managed to buy a house. I'm like, girlfriend, if you want me to believe that you have the wherewithal to have had a great job, to get fired from the great job, to be an adult woman in your 50s who's raised children and is fairly intelligent, and you don't know how you managed to buy a house on eBay, I was like, no, I can't. All credibility has left the chat. So I was like, no. I'm sure it's darling. It just hit me in just the wrong way. Most of us who listen to me chunter about books, we have very similar tastes. You know, we're looking for things that are not going to re-traumatize us, that are not going to make our nervous system go all out of whack. We want cozy reads, but we want reads that are smart and interesting, right? There's a line there. And that book crossed the line over to, this is just a little too dumb. See, I deal with really, really stupid storylines and plots on General Hospital, things that come out of the ethers and land in these writers' heads. I do not know what they are smoking in there. I can take that in a soap opera because I'm approaching it with the understanding this is ridiculous, right? When I pick up a book that some lovely human has spent hours and months of their life writing. And then I pick it up and it just doesn't hit me right. Please understand, I am not saying this is a bad book. I am just saying it's the wrong book for me. In a way, that's all the judgment. I'm not making a judgment about this book for everyone, because I know that one of you or someone is going to read this book and go, oh, that was exactly the vibe I needed. And that was just perfect. And if it is, great, fabulous, you do you. So the other book I started and didn't finish is the book upon which the movie The Sheep Detectives is based. And I think it's called Baba Black Sheep. I don't remember. And the movie, I forget if it's on what streaming service, but it's Hugh Jackman is the lovely shepherd of this flock of sheep. But the sheep are the stars of the show, right? They're the ones who are smart and they talk to each other. And so it's sort of it could be geared to a younger audience, but it's a whodunit. Anyway, I made it through about 45 minutes of this and I decided I was not invested in sheep detectives. I know don't call PETA, don't tell them, but yeah, I was just, it just didn't hit me right. So we're going to stick to Dan and his murders in Tuscany and just enjoy ourselves and not stress. Yes, Calamity Club is coming, but I also know that my nervous system needs to be in a really good place before I read that. And so it's coming. I know I'm going to read it. It's like The Help. I read The Help like 8 years after it was written. So I'll get to it. I'm not worried about it, but not yet. So on what we were talking about last week with the coming to understand how to deal with adult children and their traumas, I consider myself in a sort of a post woo-woo phase, meaning woo-woo is great. And, when I talk about woo-woo, I'm talking about like tarot cards and crystals and astrology and the things that most people consider to be pseudoscience, but a whole lot of people consider to be a spiritual truth for them, right? I've watched my progression in my spiritual life. As a young child, I was convinced I wanted to be a nun. My parents were not religious at all. So I was not taken to church as a child unless I went with my grandmother. And then at 19, I joined the Mormon church. And I was very, very active in the Mormon church until 2008 when I left the church. And prior to 2008, in Utah, the woo and the Mormons tend to go hand in hand, but kind of in a weird way. Like when I was going to school there in 1976, like everyone was into herbs and cleansing and detox. I mean, it was all the wild health stuff. And, and I learned about muscle testing and stuff back then. So Mormons and woo-woo were kind of hand in hand. So prior to me leaving the church, I was put into situations, or I put myself into situations and places and met people. And I started to kind of open my eyes about some things. Let's put it this way. And part of that was I became a Reiki master. I started to develop what some people call psychic skills or my intuition. I know half of you right now are going, oh my gosh, this is so not what I thought the old lady podcast was going to be. She's crazy. This is a time, I told my daughter, okay, it's eclipse season. It's a time for radical authenticity. So here you go, people. Anyway, so I got into more woo-y things. I was into energy work and, intuition work and this kind of thing. And I'm not going to go into the gory details, but to suffice it to say, about 4 years ago, I was taking a class with several people and we were being taught certain things. And in the process of this class, I started seeing breaks and errors and false information that this woman was giving us. And it really sent me into a tailspin, but it also sent me into a time of deep connection with spirit. getting clarity on why am I feeling this way? Well, because she's doing this. Well, what does this mean for me? It means this for, it was about a 5 or 6 months process of kind of detangling my belief systems and the things that this woman had put on me, along with a lot of other things. And at the same time, another teacher of mine kind of went wacko too. And so I'm like going, okay, we're shutting this whole thing down. And I did. I closed the door on anything that looked anything like the woo, right? Because honestly, if you've been following any of these people, there was a huge hoo-ha this week in the astrology world that one of the big astrologers, I don't know his name, started spouting off some super racial uh, thoughts and feelings, and it has caused a crap storm in the woo-woo world because people are going, yeah, you guys have been gaslighting us spiritually for years, telling us it's the new age and everything's wonderful, and the world's on fire around us, and now you're showing us that you're also a racist and probably a whole lot of other things. So with the woo world or the spiritual community, and I'm going to even throw churches in there too, everybody's just kind of having a hard time right now. You have the churches that are leaning more towards the Christian nationalism, and then you have other churches that are not Christian at all that are doing their things and doing good work. And then you have, it's just, but there's a lot of inconsistency in that. And it's I think if there's one lesson I've learned coming out in my post-woo era, if you will, is that the only teacher I want is creator. The minute you throw another human in there, and I'm not saying you don't learn from other people. That's different than someone being your teacher. Like in some communities, they call it a guru, but it's the person to whom you are looking to receive information and answers. And they're human too, and they have their own stuff. And so I think mostly what this experience did for me is it made me realize I need to be fully in integrity. So that's where I am now. So anyway, things are going well, suffice it to say. My daughter, who's going through a hard time, has actually written me and said how much she's appreciated me stepping back and letting her figure this out and grow up and be an adult. So a win, a win. All right. So as you know, I was trying to figure out what to knit last week. And I must have taken my yarn out 3 or 4 times before I settled on something. And what I settled on, I regret. It's a regret pattern. So there's a sock designer whom I love, and she's written a book called Doodle Knits. And so her whole thing is colorwork patterns, that you can pick and choose and make your own sock. And that's kind of what I did. So I went to her book and I was feeling kind of autumnal. And I thought, oh, I've never knit a pair of coffee socks that have a coffee cup on it or something. And so I found in her book the pattern for coffee cups. And I did that. And then I was looking and I found this pretty trellis pattern. And I thought, oh, that would look really cool for the rest of the sock. It was a relentless pattern to knit. It was like I would have to knit 3 rows and set it down because there were no repeats. It kind of hurt my brain. So let me show you the sock because I think I like the sock. So I've knit one because this was but you can see it's just really, and the other thing I did is I knit all this and I got this far. So I'd done the heel and I got to here and I realized I had not centered the pattern. As you can see, there's a center of the pattern. So I had to rip that out and knit it again. But so I've cast on the second sock. We're in just so that to tell myself, you're going to have to finish it eventually. But it looks cool on. It's a cool looking sock. It's a little busy, but hey. And then I got the yarn. I got yarn mail. And this is my cashmere club. I think I told you that it, the last one was that pink and yellow sock, and I wasn't really sure I liked it, but this is the yarn that they sent this month. And it's soft and it just looks caramely and beautiful. So I have started, this is my New York sock, doing a pattern I've knit many, many times. It's called the hibernal sock. And you can see I've just barely gotten started on that. But that'll be my sock this week and when I'm in New York, because I can knit it without looking at a pattern. And I won't get much knitting done. It's mostly, just to have in case I want it. Because I remember I brought my knitting to France last year and I didn't knit at all except on the plane. So that's what we'll be doing. I have never had trouble flying with my knitting needles, but you never know. So if they confiscate this, I'm going to let them take the needles, but I'm going to take the yarn and the sock off the needles so that I keep the yarn because that's irreplaceable. Anyway, that's it. Something happened last week and I meant to mention it on the podcast last week and I forgot. So weekend before last, I was sitting in my chair and Julia comes into the room and she goes, something smells weird. I said, I don't smell anything. Is it a lemon? No, it's not a lemon. Is it the trash? No, it's not the trash. And I just kind of let her do her thing. And all of a sudden I hear her scream, Mom, my nose ring is stuck on the potato bag. What's that now? So Julie has a nose ring it's a double. So one side is kind of open. And apparently she picked up the potato bag and sniffed it and the little open place. So I had to perform surgery on her nose ring and a potato bag. Those things happen in our family. What can I say? Yeah. Anyway, that's enough chuntering for now. I will try to get to you something next week, let you know about New York, but if not, it'll be in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for being here. If you're coming on Sunday to the event, please be sure to let me know that you watch both podcasts and so that there is some frame of reference there. And I will see you when we get back. I am just excited. I hope every one of you has something exciting to look forward to this week and that it brings you great joy and that you find peace in small things and you see the world as benevolent and kind. Because honestly, if we took all the people out of it, the world would be benevolent and kind. Anyway, have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.